In this video, we'll have a look at a few ways of extending geometry in order to create more geometry to work with. So let's go again up to our edit mesh here, and I'm going to select the double line so that I can get down to my options. And I'm going to close down my attribute editor so I have a little bit more screen space. And we'll be looking mainly at three tools, and that is extrude, bridge, and bevel tools. And these can be very useful tools that allow you to do a lot with your geometry. So let's start with the extrude tool. So I'm going to go to faces, and I'm going to select, we'll just start with one face here. I'll click extrude, and you can see that we get a series of controls that appear here on screen. I have thickness, which I can click and drag right on the little label here. So thickness, you can see, pulls that extrusion out. Offset will change the scale of the extrusion, so kind of essentially creates a taper. And if you're not careful and you go too far, it will cause your polygons to cross and overlap and can cause some real messiness. So be careful on that. And then also divisions. So you can see I can add some divisions here, and there I've created a nice offset. If I double click on any one of these fields, I can enter numeric values here. So I can just go ahead and type in 0 and make my offset 0. If I know that I want my thickness to be exactly 1.5, I can go ahead and do that. And then for divisions, it's numerical, so it's a little easier to deal with. So let's go ahead and say I want to make 10 divisions. And then there you go. That's all you really have to do. Now, you do also have other controls over this, and those are the handles that you see. So let's go over here, and I'm going to press G to reactivate the tool. And notice that if I click and drag this out, I can do that thickness a little bit more fluidly here because I can see exactly where it is I'm dragging. Now from here, I have controls also over the placement left and right and up and down, so that lets you have a little bit more control over how this tool works. And then also I have scaling, so I can scale in and out, and this is essentially my offset, but handled in one axis at a time. So I know I want it to taper in, say, that far, but then we want it to come down almost to a point. And there you go, you can do that. Whereas if I'm just running on the offset itself, it's going to create it evenly from all sides. So again, I can go and take and add some extra divisions up to there. So you can see that pretty quickly I can create extra geometry here. So let's do this off on one more side here. So again, press the G key, and I'm going to drag this out to here. And let's say I want this to taper in evenly, but then I want it to kind of arc down on the sides as it tapers. I'm going to do this offset here manually, and then I'm going to turn on some divisions. And now what I'm going to do is just go back to something like a scale tool, but let's go ahead and hide my edit mesh for now and bring up my tool options. Now I'm going to go here and turn on my soft selection. So let's turn on soft select, and I'm going to drag up the value until it just reaches the edge. So maybe something about like that. And now, if I just scale this down, you can see now I've got a curve that I've done off of that extrusion. So the extrusion tool can be used really often in combination with other tools. Here I can even add a twist to that. Just using my scale and my rotation tools, you can see that I've created a much more complex extrusion. So keep in mind that all these tools, again, layer on top of one another in order to create more complex geometry. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and just select this entire object. Let's turn off soft selection for now. Object, I'm going to delete it, and then I'm just going to add a new cylinder back into my scene here. So let's go back, and I'm going to get rid of those end caps because I don't like them. I'm going to turn this down to 16 sides just to keep it nice and even, and then zero out my translation so it's right in the middle, and there we are back to another basic cylinder. So continuing on, let's go back down, pull up edit meshes, and let's look then at the bevel tool. We'll come back to bridge in a second here. So what the bevel tool allows you to do is actually smooth off geometry. So this is another way of adding detail here. So let's go to my edges, and let's say I want to select this entire edge loop around the top. Now, if I double click on it, since it's around an n-gon in between where we have these four-sided polygons and this multi-sided polygon, double clicking won't give me my selection. An easy way to select all these is to drag through and get all of them, and then hold Control and drag through the lower part to deselect the bottom edges. So now you can see I just have that top edge loop selected there. All right, so now I'm going to go ahead and press the bevel tool. Now I could go to the option box, but it's not visual, so I'm just going to go ahead and edit the settings now after the fact. So you can see here under poly bevel, I have, again, this is in my attribute editor, I have offset as fraction, and that means it's going to be a percentage of the total possible. So going down to 1 there is going to take me to a point. Otherwise, it's going to be a discrete number based off of the scale of the grid units. So let's go ahead and I can adjust that. Then I can adjust the number of segments to smooth that out. Now, the other option that you have here is the smoothing angle. And this just has to do with how the polygons are shaded. If I turn it up really high, we'll get kind of weird at smoothing. If I turn it down really low, then it's going to give me more of a faceted effect. So there you can see it looks very faceted. And then if I turn it up higher, you can see that shading start to smooth off as that goes around. So there you go. That way you can create nice rounded or flat kind of beveled edges on your models. Pretty simple tool, but very, very effective. All right, so let's go back here, back to object mode and select that. And now let's look at the bridge tool. Now, in order to use the bridge tool, I need a couple of different pieces to bridge with. So what I'm going to do here is take this model here, I'm going to copy and paste it, and then select that duplicate and move it over. So now you can see I have 2 of the same models here to work with. Now what I would want to do is attach, say, 2 polygons on this side to 2 polygons on this side in order to bridge them. But right now, these are 2 separate objects, and I can't do any editing between 2 separate objects unless they are combined. So I'm going to shift click on the second object here, so I have them both selected, and then I'm going to go up to mesh and combine. And now they're just one piece. Now you can always go back and take them back apart by clicking separate. Now I have 2 separate objects again, but we want to be able to edit these together. So I'm going to go ahead and click combine. So now these are 2 separate objects. If I go into my faces, you can see that by selecting 2 faces, I can also select faces on the opposite object. So I'm going to select 2 faces on either side, and then I'm going to go ahead and click the bridge tool. You can see that by default, it's going to go in with some subdivisions here, 5 subdivisions. I can control the number of subdivisions. And that's actually causing a little bit of an error here, but I'll show you how to fix that in a moment. So I can control the number of subdivisions, how these bridges are attached. So linear, you can see blend is going to take the initial angle that these are facing, the polygons. You can see they were facing out this way and these were facing out that way. It's going to blend them together. And then depending on the angle that you have, the curve might also cause one to ease in and one to ease out so that they will blend together. So in this case, they're facing both kind of out towards each other, so the curve one isn't having any effect there. But let's choose blend and give ourselves something nice to work with there. And the bridge offset has to do if you have twisted selections. So if, say, if you're selecting 2 different circles, 2 different halves of cylinders, say, and bridging them together, but it's twisting, you can use the bridge offset in order to make the edges attach one edge farther along. So, you know, think of, you know, if you have 2 clocks facing each other and they're connecting at 12 to 1, so it's causing a twist there. If I were to set my bridge offset to 1, it's going to snap that back so that they're aligning, and then you have 12 to 12, 1 to 1, that kind of thing. And we have this smoothing angle that's also going to control just the way that the smoothing looks. If I go too far, you can see that's really causing some weird smoothing. So I just want to get that to where it looks about right. And there we go. So what I'm actually going to do here also is I'm going to pull this up far enough to where we start to see this error here. And all that's really happened here is that some of our polygons have lost their material tag. So right now, the polygons that are in here, they still exist. You see, I can go select these faces here. They still exist, but they don't have the material tag on them. So I'm just going to double click on everything, right click, and then just go down to assign existing material. Since I haven't done any material work here, I just have Lambert 1. It's the kind of default material there. Go ahead and click on that, and it will reapply that material to them. So if you do see those polygons disappear, not a big deal, nothing you need to worry about. It's just something that needs to be fixed like that. So there you go. That's the start at extending geometry in order to get more smoothed off or more joined shapes that attach multiple objects or extend single objects off into more extended space. Again, looking at taking your geometry from basic shapes and extending that beyond that into more specific models of your creation.